Hoo-wee! About damn time I got around to this one. Kia ora there, family, and welcome to a video that took me way too long to get around to. Recreating Impact, recreating Geese Howard. Very sorry for taking so long to get around to this one, but I do have a reason for that. It's not really a good reason, but my reason is, unlike the previous Recreating Impact videos I have done, the big difference with Geese Howard is that, for this video, I am going to be talking about my #1 favorite character in all of fighting games, as well as one of my favorite video game characters in general. Now that may come as a bit of a surprise to most of you who know me for my Tekken content, because Tekken is my favorite fighting game franchise. But my all-time favorite character actually comes from SNK's Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, and many of their other franchises that he's appeared in. And that's what I'm going to cover today. Everything behind this character is almost as vast and legendary as the entire SNK franchises themselves. But damn it, now is a good time for me to talk about him in the best way I possibly can, considering the fact that King of Fighters 15 is around the corner. So I say it's about time we get into discussing and talking about this character being one of the main reasons why the franchise has stuck around and been so iconic this long. So here we go, people. This is Recreating Impact, Recreating Geese Howard.
私はギース・ハワード。だがその昔、私にはもう一つの名前があった。もうその名は忘れてしまったが。
Despite several new faces coming from SNK's many franchises, none of them have reached the level of impact that has been Geese Howard. And before he was known for throwing Repukens at you, parrying you into the ground, or just kicking you out of his tower over and 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 over again, he was a poor street child raised in the slums of Southtown by the only other person who he loved and had affection for, and that was his mother, Maria Howard. At the age of 15, Geese Howard had unfortunately lost his mother to starvation and illness. Despite taking on several jobs on the side to keep her healthy, it was unfortunately not successful. But rather than get saddened by this, Geese would just be more determined than ever to get stronger. Throughout his years, Geese Howard's father was non-existent because he was an Austrian terrorist who had long abandoned him not long after he had been born. Geese Howard's dad had abandoned him and his mother Maria to marry another woman who had a blood relation and powerful influence within the Stroheim family household. Marrying into this family, Rudolph gained new power that he had been wanting. This only further enraged Geese, learning he had been cast aside just so his father could become more rich and powerful, leading him to be more determined than ever to end his life. But unfortunately, Geese Howard wasn't prepared for the obstacle that stood in his way, and that was his younger brother, Wolfgang Krause von Stroheim. Wolfgang Krause was the son that Rudolph had favored the most, and he not only left the Stroheim fortune to Wolfgang, but he also left him the vast lineage of fighting techniques that the household was known for. And because of this, Geese Howard was ill-prepared and was not ready for Krause to Kaiser wave him to the ground. Beaten and humiliated, Geese begged his brother Krause to kill him there and then, as he felt he had nothing more to live for after his failed assassination attempt. Krause, being the dickbag that he is, laughs at Geese and tells him, "We are brothers, so I will not kill you, but trash like you is not welcome in our house." Up to this point, Geese Howard's only strength was the blood of his family, and it wasn't enough. He had already lost his mother, and his father and brother rejected him. Having no other options, Geese Howard sought out Tung Fu Ru, and began training at his dojo alongside someone who he considered his new brother, and that was Jeff Bogard, the father of series mainstays Andy and Terry Bogard. Thanks to the unforgettable days of training with who he saw as his new brother and family, Geese Howard was finally on the path to pursue what he wanted most: strength and power. Thanks to his training, he was getting what he wanted at a rather fast pace, going around and intimidating the gangs of Southtown, including Southtown's crime lord, Mr. Big. As to be expected, Tung Fu and Jeff did not approve of his methods. While contemplating what to do, Geese had already sought out the power of the school's ancient scrolls, which was meant to be passed down to his brother Jeff. At this point, power was nothing more than a means for Geese's main priority, which is getting revenge. So without hesitation, he challenges Jeff Bogard in order to gain possession of the scroll. Angry but determined, Geese Howard's attacks were relentless. He was not holding back on Jeff at all. But neither was Jeff, and in the end, Jeff prevailed over Geese. Having lost to his brother Jeff, Geese surrendered the scroll to him. And despite all that went down, Jeff still respected Geese as his brother. Geese also respected Jeff and his strength. Revenge being his only reason for living, he asked Jeff to kill him. And Jeff told him, "We are brothers. I will not kill you, but you are no longer welcome here." This was the tipping point, and it was this moment right here that would set Geese Howard on the path to becoming the Geese Howard that we know today. Geese Howard had only been obtaining power for revenge, but revenge was tied to family. Families that had rejected him and cast him into the shadows. From this moment on, Geese Howard realized that his only goal should be power. He realized that at this point it was his connection to family that was holding him back. So now, this time, Geese Howard would obtain power, but not for revenge or to reclaim his lineage of the Strawheim household, but instead to become the one and only Geese Howard, a feared powerhouse that would echo throughout Southtown and the world. Within just a few years' time, Geese Howard became police commissioner of Southtown, using his newfound influence and power to cripple the criminal underworld. With his combination of deadly martial arts skills and tactical planning, the criminal underworld was at his mercy. Geese then immediately stood down from running the police to running all crime in the city. Then, Geese created Howard Global Trade, or Geese Tower. Geese now had a tight grip on many of the world's major supply chains. In other words, you name it, he owns it. The only other thing that grew as quickly as Geese Howard's global influence was Geese Howard's martial art power and skill, which then he put to the test against his brother Jeff Bogard once again. Geese began learning more about ancient Chinese scrolls, one of them being the Phoenix Scroll that belonged to his school. With his newfound strength and power, he challenged Jeff, and while Jeff put up a valiant fight, he unfortunately was on the receiving end of Geese Howard's newest technique. So yeah, Jeff's dead. The Phoenix Scroll is one of many scrolls that Geese would pursue and obtain in the future. Geese learned the Phoenix Scroll could give life to the dead. Unknowingly, but also very fortunate for Geese, the scroll's power actually worked. In the game, whether it's Terry, Joe, or Andy that deliver the sending Geese to his iconic death, he apparently comes back in the next Fatal Fury and continuing on into the future King of Fighters titles. Geese pretty much can't die. Even after getting blasted off an even larger Geese Tower, he likes towers, he'd rather fall to his death than have Terry save him. Geese is rather surprised that Terry has put vengeance aside just like he once did. But in Geese's world, it's power or die. Being overpowered, he will welcome death with open arms. But through the power of the Phoenix Scroll and being a cool fucking character, Geese Howard came back once again. He hid behind the scenes while Terry took out his brother Wolfgang Krauser, and in the future Orochi saga, when he teams up with Krauser and Mr. Big, Geese is the one leading the pack. Even after everything that has happened, Geese remains the big dog on top. His brother takes orders from him as well as Mr. Big. They like to pretend they don't, but they know the pecking order. Geese Howard is the fucking man.
Nightmare Geese.
Whenever Geese Howard is being brought up in the gameplay meta, it always pays to specify which version of the character you are talking about. Because there's so many versions of this character, whether he's considered bad or good, it's very clear to see through each one. The SNK development team love this character way more than the fans do. A very positive thing if I do say so myself. I mean, after all, a character getting love from fans and developers, that's how you know you've got a pretty sweet character. Whether he's considered one of the stronger characters or one of the weaker characters, the actual character himself is what brings people back to playing him. And the fact there are so many of him just makes me like him even more. One of the most standout ones to me is of course the Geese Howard from the Real Bout Fatal Fury games. Depending on which version of the game you have, there's regular Geese and Nightmare Geese. Put simply, Nightmare Geese is basically Boss Geese, who only has 1 bar of health rather than 2 like the regular characters, because he does a crap ton of damage. One of the things I love about these games is the rush combo. With the combination of the super special move and potential power gauge, this basically means that for a limited time, you have an unrelenting assault of regular normal strings and special moves put together. And this makes Geese Howard, well, for lack of a better term, a literal nightmare. The other version of Geese Howard that I like a lot is from King of Fighters Maximum Impact 2, which is a 3D game. But this wouldn't be Geese Howard's first time in 3D, as he was already in Fatal Fury Wild Ambition. But unlike Wild Ambition, Maximum Impact 2 once again used Nightmare Geese, who was a secret unlockable character. Also, as a bonus, I just love his personality in this game. He has so much evil cheese oozing out of him that the other villains pale in comparison to his presence alone. Seriously, look at how he embarrasses the final boss.
Perfect. Come on. Winner.
Diable! Talk about kicking them while they're down. Seriously, Geese, you have way too much fun being an asshole. I love it. One thing I also love is that every Geese Howard has one thing in common. The parry. Seriously, Geese Howard, no matter what game he's in, always has the parry. He may sometimes lose his Shadow Smasher or his Crescent Moon Slicer, but he always has the parry. While the high parry is the favorite amongst fans and the most iconic, the mid parry is arguably the most dangerous, as that one allows for a combo follow-up after the parry is successful. This addition to the parry happened after Fatal Fury 3, as up to that point in the past games, the mid parry would do the hard knockdown variation of the high parry. And that was also the same case for the low parry as well, which was really funny as he slammed you to the ground after you kicked his toes. I always found that amusing. While the high parry allowed for pressure, the low parry created space, giving the player breathing room. Gaining multiple options from multiple parries fed the nightmare more fuel. There's a reason that the parry sticks around. It's not just a cool special move. this is a move that is important to the character. Geese is a survivor. No matter what obstacle is in front of him, no matter who opposes him, Geese Howard will face them head on, or he will throw them out of the way. Aside from Krauser and Rugal, despite the many different villains in the SNK franchises, the one that is the most memorable, most iconic, and the one that is most deserving of the title of #1 boss is Geese Howard. He's more than just a legacy character. He is a man who overcame the impossible. Whether he's dead or just taking a break, everyone feels his presence. The presence of the nightmare.
See you in your nightmare.
Oh yeah, and before I forget, he has a super parry.
Gotcha, bitch!
Die forever, waiting. お前はもう死んでいる。
It's running on a real 4, guys.
Oh shit.
Who's gonna assassinate Heihachi now?
It's a function.
Donovan?
If it's Donovan, I'm gonna flip my shit.
Hi, Heihachi. How you doing, buddy?
Mishima, the world is too big for you to control. The world is too big for you to control.
Who is this?
誰じゃ
Mishima. The world is too big for you to control.
No fucking way! I think it's I'm sorry, fucking Geese!
Bring it on. I'll destroy you all.
Are you serious? Please, don't let this be a joke. Oh my god! Ah! No way!
Bring it on.
My boy! No way!
Bring it on.
I still can't get over this shit. And the stage.
Bring it on.
And his theme. I just realized his theme is playing. Yes! Oh yes! Yes! Yes!
Bring it on.
Yes!
I'll destroy you
Ah!
all.
Oh, kinabili! Oh! Di! Predictable! 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 Nah! Hola, pare! Oh, he can counter everything! Yo! He can counter supers! Bitch, what? Nah! Yo! Che pepti! Amo to balconi!
Dude, bad dance the game!
Stay down, maggot. Can we watch it again? We're watching it again. I don't give a fuck what y'all think. We're watching this shit again. It's over, man. It's over. Tekken 7's the greatest fighting game ever.
I don't know who or how, but some omnipresence within the universe wanted Geese Howard in Tekken 7 as much as I did. And for that, I'm eternally grateful, and I want to give both SNK and Namco a big fat kiss. Everything that makes Geese Howard the charismatic disciple of evil is perfectly preserved, recreated, and expanded upon in Tekken 7. And then some. For starters, we have his voice. Not only was the Tekken team able to get Kong Kiwata, Geese Howard's original voice actor from the Fatal Fury and King of Fighters series, but the Tekken team also got Richard Epcar, a very well-known voice actor whose recent roles include Raiden from Mortal Kombat, and funny enough, Akuma in Street Fighter V, and of course, Joseph Joestar.
You're Japanese, aren't you?
I am. Mighty Lass.
In that case, watch your damn bag!
Perfect casting. And next, we have Geese Howard's visual and gameplay design. With how well received he was by old and new fans in King of Fighters 14, it would only make sense for the Tekken team to recreate the King of Fighters 14 look. The look itself, however, was but one of many influences they would use to put Geese Howard in Tekken 7. The main takeaway from King of Fighters 14 that was implemented in Tekken 7 was actually the mechanics that Geese Howard uses in that game. Aside from the feint, short hop, super jump, and dodge roll, Geese Howard is still able to utilize his normal to special cancels, special into super special move cancel, as well as being able to buffer his super moves during the animation of a whiffed attack.
Better scramble like an egg before you get folded like an omelet, nigga.
As mentioned before, Geese Howard's parry is an important tool that the character always has, and while Tekken 7 doesn't have the super parry, which I'm a little bit disappointed about, the Tekken 7 version of Geese Howard still has 4 different parries. He's got his regular high parry, as well as the mid parry, all of which can parry supers, including the low parry. When in max mode, he does have a 4th parry, and that is, while he's in max mode, he's able to parry both high and mid attacks with the high parry, which is very similar to what he's able to do with King of Fighters 14, as well as other versions of him from Fatal Fury and so on and so forth. Another great thing I like about Geese Howard in Tekken 7 is that not only does he bring over the mechanics from another game into this game, but the mechanics of Tekken 7 also work well with what Geese Howard had previously. For example, he's got his super special moves which are tied to his meter in this game, but very similar to the classic Fatal Fury games, the rage art works very similar to how his supers worked in those games. In those games, he could only use moves like Raging Storm, Rashomon, and Thunder Break, while Geese Howard's health bar was glowing red, very similar to the Tekken Rage mechanic. So, by limiting some of his other super special moves to the Rage mechanic for his potential power moves, that is really damn cool. So using the mechanics in Tekken 7 to kind of recreate what he had previously with the other games, that's another fucking awesome thing I love about what they did with Geese Howard. It really does make the character feel that more complete. And honestly, it's some of the coolest implementation of another character from another game that I have ever seen. Now, don't take this as me discrediting other characters that have made it into other gaming franchises. Rash in Battletoads? I love it. The Predator in Mortal Kombat X? That's my main. And Haomaru from Samurai Showdown made it into the franchise, which is Tekken's younger brother, Soul Calibur. Everything from his heavy slashes and the way his rage mechanic was implemented in Soul Calibur 6 was also really well done. The biggest difference between Geese and Haomaru is that Haomaru can still be played like a Soul Calibur character. Many of Soul Calibur's mechanics do borrow influence from Samurai Showdown for Haomaru, but he doesn't necessarily need them, and it still feels within the realm of Soul Calibur. And that's mainly because, as the game progressed, all the other characters in the game were updated to play in a similar way. Mai Shiranui actually has this in common with Haomaru, where in Dead or Alive 6, despite maintaining some of her normal and special moves, she still feels and plays like a Dead or Alive character. This is where Geese Howard stands out from Hao and Mai in a big way. Even something as simple as jumping, the way he moves in the air makes it feel like you are not just playing a different character, but you are playing a different character with a different toolkit, which is entirely separate from the universe they have stepped into. It's not really fair for me to compare them this way, but with this knowledge, this is what makes Mai feel a bit underwhelming to me in Dead or Alive 6. Despite that some of her supers were carried over to the game and they were tied to the break blow meter, they lack the same impact that comes from her original series. Here's Mai's super in Dead or Alive 6. And here's a brief combo that cancels her break blow into an air throw that used to be a level 3 in King of Fighters. Now check out the same attacks in King of Fighters 14, but this time they are super special moves and climax supers. I'm not saying the ones in Dead or Alive are bad, but they really lack that oomph to make a super feel, well, super. Even when you compare Geese Howard's to his original game, Tekken 7 really delivers on making the supers feel really powerful. Even Haomaru, despite Samurai Showdown being much more violent and bloody, Soul Calibur still does a great job of recreating the feeling of embrace death really well. Haomaru's E-Sen attack is a perfect example of this. Despite being censored in Soul Calibur, the shots, the audio, it all perfectly recreates the feel of you have just cut away your opponent's life they were so desperately clinging to.
Now I'm fired up! This is it!
Now, I'm not simply making these comparisons to say who did what better. The main point I want you to take away from this is that Tekken went above and beyond simply recreating moves frame by frame and reimagining them in the Tekken style. They did a lot more than that. With Soul Calibur, you feel like you're playing an SNK character as a Soul Calibur character. With Dead or Alive, you feel like you're playing an SNK character as a Dead or Alive character. But with Geese, you feel like you're playing an SNK game in a Tekken game. Tekken 7 recreates everything that makes you think, that is Geese Howard. There's not that many Geese characters that recreate that feeling. The only other characters I can think of is Akuma, also in Tekken 7, how he's recreated from Street Fighter 4, and, funny enough, the Virtua Fighter characters in Dead or Alive 5 feel like they were ripped straight from Virtua Fighter 5. They play almost exactly how they do in their own game. And yeah, that is due to Dead or Alive and Virtua Fighter having similar gameplay mechanics and even button layout, so naturally they do feel at home and can play like Dead or Alive characters. That's where Geese stands out in the best ways. You have a character with King of Fighters 14 mechanics with a few sprinkles of Real Bout and Fatal Fury Special. And that feels pretty fucking awesome. And to all my Tekken peeps who think Geese is too OP or has too much cheese, firstly, you can never have too much cheese, and second, be thankful that he doesn't have any of this. And that was regular Geese. Nightmare Geese can do a fucking infinite. And now, the final thing I want to talk about with recreating Geese Howard is how the Tekken team recreated Geese's music. Fighting games have some of the best music, not just in games, but music in general. And quite a few of my favorite music tracks actually come from boss characters. And Geese Howard is no exception, because he's one of SNK's most beloved assholes. I cannot believe I just said that. He has one of the most recognizable and some of the best music tracks and remixes from SNK. And even though Wild Ambition is considered the black sheep of the Fatal Fury series, it does give Geese a nightmarish and foreboding mix of his iconic track, as well as a remixed headbanging battle track. Out of all of these though, Geese Howard's most popular and most recognizable theme comes from Fatal Fury Special. And just like how the Tekken team recreated Geese Howard in Tekken 7 and made that version of the character my favorite, they also recreated Geese's soy sauce theme, and that's now one of my favorites. And can you blame me? It sounds awesome. And just in case you're wondering what my favorite version of Geese Howard's music track is, it's this one. I use this for my ringtone and my alarm to wake up in the morning. Thanks, Rizzy. And finally, and most important of all, thank you all for watching my video. This has been Recreating Impact, Recreating Geese Howard. I hope I did a good enough job explaining why I think Geese Howard is a very cool character and how he was represented really well in Tekken 7. I madly appreciate that SNK and Namco were able to bring my favorite fighting game character of all time into my favorite fighting game series of all time. With everything I was able to cover in this video, it's given me more ideas for future Recreating Impact videos covering other characters. With fighting games continue to recreate and expand their characters, the possibilities for more videos like this, I'm very much looking forward to that, and I hope all of you are as well. But until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, whānau. Ka kite.
Welcome to your nightmare, and may you enjoy it.
Sometimes I wish there was a female Geese Howard. Is that a thing?
That's cute. Nice
What?
Geese Howard! Come on! Waste of time!
Geese even makes a nice female waifu villain. Chronica and Sindel should take notes.
Whoa! Someone needs to call the cannibals because that was savage!